Hey, you guys. David here. What day is it? Is it Wednesday? Yes, it is. James had to think, "Damn, what day is it?" So it's Wednesday, and oh, there's so much going on here. It's interesting, and I'll just share with you quickly why I'm reading Letting Go. I'm reading Letting Go, Pathway to Surrender by Dr. David Hawkins, and I just want to share with you why I'm doing that. It kind of started out. It's damn. The road is kind of twisted, and how do we get to where we end up getting to? But really briefly, I second, I want to show you one of these. So I had this vision. Of creating meditation spaces in people's homes. I still have the vision. I still think it's an amazing plan and idea. And it's happening. There's no question. But the how-to, of course, I had no idea on. And so I ordered 500 of these and 500 meditation like little altars, and they're really, really cool, and got them in here in the fall. And so what kind of came out of that was like, holy Toledo. There's a whole ton of people who are in the category of I want to meditate or I should meditate. And we're not going to lay any shoulds on you. What we realize is that possibly the reason people aren't meditating is that, they either don't know how, and they're kind of concerned, like, what do I do? So we're going to help deal with that. Or they don't know why. Why should I meditate? And that's primarily why I'm reading this. And because meditation is the path to consciousness, and part of the path to consciousness. And so if we're meditating on a regular basis, we can't actually see what's happening. But Corinne was in here the other day, Corinne Kilback, and Corinne said, it's like dipping a cloth in the dye, bringing it out and washing it, dipping it in, bringing it out and washing it, and get the color to go deep into a fabric. And meditation's kind of like that. And every time we sit, we have an experience, even if it's only 3 minutes, and we just sit quietly, and it works on so many parts of us in our beautiful minds. It's anti-aging. It helps us with our sleep. It's great for our self-image. I think I've heard that it makes us better lovers. We move out of victim into responsibility, and so sometimes those things are a bit of a struggle. They can be, difficult. It doesn't have to be, though. Life is easy. It's only our belief that it's going to be difficult. But there's this thing I just want to tell you about. There's like take a pie circle, and a little slice of that pie is what we know, really. It's just a little slice, and then there's another little slice of what we know that we don't know. And there's a big part of the slice that we don't know that we don't know. And so often we live in what we know, and maybe look a little bit at what we know we don't know, but we have no fucking idea about what we don't know. And so consciousness helps us to see what it is that we don't know, and get a larger vision, a more expanded presence, and access to greater powers within us, and so that's why I'm reading this. For me as much as for you. I don't know anybody that could have benefited more from what I've read so far than me. It's been amazing. And I had a little session this morning with a gal that was here. Damn, it's gone right in my mind. Anyway, Abigail Moss. And Abby helped me to just see how my belief system, one of my little belief systems, and we've got a million of them, was that life was hard in a way, that success was hard, and that life was struggle, and to whatever degree that was there, she helped me let go of that, and I moved into another level of life is easy, and fulfilling our purpose is easy, and finding and living our purpose is easy. So if you believe that, it leads to an amazing life. So we're going to read a little bit today. So Hawkins, it's all about consciousness. You got to get this book. Go into there'll be a link here, and order it. Just get the book and order it and read it yourself. It's not a one and done. It's not a one and done. It's a text. It really is, and it's a life a text that supports, life well lived, and the chances are that you'll break out of a whole lot of things that have been holding us back, moment to moment. So, the doc built this scale. He used kinesiology to build a vibrational scale, and he says we're all at different vibrations on the planet at each moment, and that at the top of the scale was like at 1,000, and his scale was Christ consciousness. So kind of as high as you could go in this incarnation, and don't worry about it. It's probably not going to happen. I'm not saying it's not, but it's Christ consciousness. And then kind of at the bottom is apathy. Like, oh my God, apathy is like my life is, it's just like right around suicide. And then we move up the scale through a lot of emotions that are a little higher than apathy and depression. And in this book, it has the anatomy of emotions. There's a lot of us don't know anything about emotions. We don't even know what the fuck we're feeling, And we move up from apathy into and it doesn't kind of name them all, but into grief, and then into fear, and then through desire. And he talks about those things and how they play in our life. And I'm sure he could have written 2 books just on those things, but it opens a lot of doors. And then chapter 8, we're in anger. And for a lot of people, that's the only emotion they know. What's the matter? I'm just angry. Well, talk about it. What's going on? So under the anger, we'll find what else is going on. And this is not therapy. I'm not a therapist. I'm just reading a book, but you can be kind of your own therapist if you get the information, and help you to see yourself, and also have more empathy for others and more compassion for others, because you get to see how we can be so stuck in the lower vibrations. So here we are, page 123, 123, anger, chapter 8. Anger may vary all the way from rage to mild resentment. It includes revenge, outrage, indignation, fury, jealousy, vindictiveness, spite, hatred, contempt, wrath, argumentiveness, hostility, sarcasm. Imagine sarcasm. Actually, we think it's kind of, sarcasm is like sarcastic humor is funny, but sarcasm comes out of anger. Impatience, frustration, negativity, aggression, violence, revulsion, meanness, rebellion, explosive behavior, agitation, abusiveness, abrasiveness, smoldering, sullen, pouting, stubbornness. These varieties of anger are well exemplified in the daily news on TV. I want to ask you a question. So, have you ever lived with somebody or been in a relationship with somebody where you always had to be careful because they were going to be angry? Like you ever felt like, oh my gosh, I can't say this, I can't say that, I got to be careful, I don't want to upset them, I don't want to make them feel, I don't want to, and you're kind of being controlled by somebody else's anger. I mean, it's a choice. It is a choice. You've chosen to be there. But have you ever been there? If you have, just say yes, share that. Just let it go, Or have you ever been on the other side where you've really been manipulating somebody else with your anger, with your resentment, with your sarcasm? Just, say yes to that and acknowledge that, that anger sometimes is a tool, and we've used it to control the world around us, and it's not a very successful tool. It's not the chosen tool. I don't think we have to control anybody ever, but that is sometimes what's happening. So I'd love to hear your feedback on anger in your life. Anger may come up about the technique. Anger may come up about the technique of surrender itself. Anger that one is expected to let go of feelings that in the past have been valued. Anger is anger at the fear of loss. Anger at feelings in general. Anger at a feeling that does not relinquish immediately. Oh yeah. So I know we talk about, we call it pissed off, and that kind of stuff. And anyway, I think I spent a lot of my life, especially as a child, being afraid that I was going to upset one of my brothers. They were going to be angry, or my mother, my dad, because there was a lot of anger in our house. And some of you may have grown up in angry houses. If so, say so. Just talk about it, and we'd love to hear. There's a lot of energy in anger. Therefore, we may actually feel energized when we are irritated or angry. I know that. I've had angry hangovers. So what I mean is that, like an emotional hangover where I've had it. Well, if I drop into anger, like really go into anger, I call it a slip, really, because it's it's not where I want to be, and I like to live outside of that, and then I can have literally an emotional hangover from having anger. We actually feel energized when we are irritated or angry. One of the tricks people learn is to move up quickly from apathy and grief into anger, then to jump from anger to pride, and then into courage. In anger, there is the energy of action. This results in doingness in the world. When the have-nots of the world become energized by desire and move up to anger over what they lack, that anger moves them into the actions necessary to fulfill their dreams for a better life. So anger does have a purpose. It can move things. I mean, I have, especially in working with guys in recovery, I have said, get angry, bud. Angry enough to get this job done. And sometimes you have to dig in for that energy to push through some things, and so it can have some benefit. The quantity of suppressed anger in the population can be verified quickly by seeing how popular violence in the media, where the viewers are presented with a vicarious experience of letting out their anger in the form of beatings, shootings, stabbings, lynchings, killings of various bad guys. So we get to kind of bleed off our anger by watching violent shit on the news. I remember when I was a kid, you never saw like a dead body in the news ever. It just didn't go that way, and it's certainly changed now, hasn't it? We typically feel so much guilt about anger that we find it necessary to make the object of our anger wrong. Oh, you made me angry. You made me angry. Has anybody ever said that? You made me angry. You'd be angry too if you had a wife like that, you had a husband like that. Anyway, and so we blame other people for our anger. Imagine. Anybody ever done that? So that we say we're angry is justified. Few are the persons who can take responsibility for their own anger and just say, I'm angry because I am full of angriness. Obviously, if we own the anger, it's more likely that we can surrender it. If we don't own it, we can't surrender it, can we? I mean, if truly, if I'm angry because it's snowing, which would seem really silly, or if I'm angry because somebody kind of cut me off, at an intersection, and that's actually still comes up a little bit. It's like crazy, and I laugh at myself when that comes up, you shithead, what are you doing? But it's gone really quickly. Using this next bit, using anger positively. It is common for people to repress their anger and aggression and inner hostility. They view it as unpleasant, undignified, and even as a moral failure or a spiritual setback. They do not realize that repressed anger is repressed anger is nonetheless the energy of anger, and if not acknowledged and worked through, it will have a deleterious consequence to their health and overall progress. The intention behind anger is negativity. The intention behind anger is negativity, and it will have similar consequences even if it is not repressed, not expressed. Similar consequences, even if it's not expressed. A helpful approach is to view the energy of anger positively and use it to fire up our ambitions and our actions in the useful way. For instance, let's say we are angry at our boss. I can't be angry at the boss. God's my boss. Well, that's not true. I have been angry. Okay, yes, angry at the boss. For instance, okay, I lost my spot. Angry at the boss. We feel resentful. He never seems to acknowledge our abilities or efforts. But we know it's unwise to express anger and resentment. It would very likely result in the loss of our job or him cutting off our head. It's not true. I just made that up. Or at least being on the continued resentment of the boss. Or at least being on the continued resentment of the boss. At best, the expression of anger would result in a tacky situation. Instead, we can make a decision to use that energy in a constructive way, in our own behalf. It can be the inspiration for us to create a project that, because of its excellence, proves our point. It may be the energy for us to move up and out of a situation that is unsatisfactory. It may utilize, we can utilize that energy to create new job opportunities or find a better job, form a committee, improve our employment situation, start a union, or whatever we think would benefit our personal goals. In personal relationships, the same opportunity exists. The anger can be utilized to inspire us to improve our communication skills, take a course on interpersonal relationships, or enroll in a self-improvement program. The anger can inspire us to rededication, to put forth greater clarity or of effort, and to actually do a better job. In this way, the situation can result in recommitment. It can inspire us to look within ourselves and relinquish all the negative feelings via acceptance. Instead of being mad about it, we can accept it. All right. Self-sacrifice. There are many sources of anger. We have already mentioned that very often a complex of angry feelings is connected with fear, and the anger disappears when we let go of the fear. Another source of anger is that of pride, and especially that aspect of pride called vanity. Frequently, it is our personal pride that feeds and propagates the anger. Pride. Don't you know who I am? Pride. One source of pride is connected with self-sacrifice. If our relationships with others are associated with our small self in the form of sacrifice, then we are setting ourselves up for later anger, because the other person is usually unaware of our sacrifice and is therefore unlikely to fulfill our expectations. When I'm teaching men about relationships, God knows I do sometimes, and I tell them that compromise or sacrifice almost always leads to resentment. So if we don't tell the truth, and we do something that we really feel is a sacrifice or a compromise, it usually comes with an expectation. And expectation usually leads to disappointment and anger. And so I can see what he's saying here. Sacrifice, I call it compromise. An example of this comes from a day in the life of a typical traditional marriage. The wife spends the entire day working hard at cleaning the house and meticulously looking after the plants, bringing in flowers, rearranging some furniture, and doing all she can do to make the house look beautiful. Now, I just want to mention that Dr. Hawkins is passed now, and he's maybe talking about a different situation, because the world has changed quite a bit since many wives stay home and did that kind of work. But I think we understand what he's talking about. When the husband comes home, he doesn't say a word about the house or even seem to notice. Instead, he's exhausted from the day at work, and he recounts its various trials and tribulations. In his mind, he is thinking of all the self-sacrifice he's made, the irate customers, the audacious drive through the commuter traffic, the irritable boss, and the pressure of the deadlines. He's thinking of all that he's done for his wife and family. While he is thinking of all these hardships, he is feeling a mounting resentment that he hasn't acknowledged her desires. Oh, she is feeling a mounting resentment that he hasn't acknowledged her efforts. She goes back in her mind over all the sacrifices she made that day. She could have gone out for lunch with friends. She could have finished reading the book that she was enjoying. She could have watched her favorite program on television. Instead, she did all of this for him, and now she's making no comment on the result of her efforts. As both harbor their grudges, their resentments and frustrations, their inner anger mounts. It is expressed as coolness and detachment as they escape into television for the evening and go to bed silently to brood over their grievances. This is such a typical American home scene, it's almost banal to repeat it here. Yet, its commonness speaks of its learning value to us. We can examine it and try to unravel this decline of a relationship. That which we want or desire and insist upon from another person is felt by them as pressure. They will therefore unconsciously resist. In the above example, both persons are looking for acknowledgement. They want it, desire it, but block it in each other. Each side felt pressured and consequently resistant. The resistance is because pressure is always felt by us as a denial of our choice. It is felt as emotional blackmail. The unconscious formula goes, give me what I want, or I'll punish you by withdrawal, anger, pouting, sulking, and resentment. We all resent feeling emotionally blackmailed. We all know the resistance we feel when we become aware that somebody is fishing for a compliment, and the same resistance goes on unconsciously as well as consciously. Ever been there? Anybody ever been there? I know it seems so simple, but worthwhile, because it is day to day in all of our relationships, and there's a potential to be in all of them. When we are motivated by self-sacrifice, we are pressuring the other person. Even if we force an acknowledgement, it will be a disgruntled one. A forced compliment does not satisfy. Part of the anger here arises from the pride of self-sacrifice. We have a certain secret vanity about what we're doing for others, and our pride of achievement makes us vulnerable to anger when our sacrifice is not recognized. The way to offset this anger is to acknowledge and relinquish the pride. Surrender one's desire for the pleasure of self-pity and, instead, view our efforts on behalf of others as gifts. Wow. That's like a huge shift in context. So, I remember, in when I was married, and I've been married a couple of times, beautiful, very successful marriages, short but very successful. That's humor. Anyway, and I do remember being that way. That I wanted recognition, and I hear men say it all the time. She doesn't support me. Well, heck, I mean, that's not the deal. If we need that, then we're really, it's an immature need. It's us being in self-sacrifice. It's an immature need. How about, we're there with a gift, and we don't need to be supported. We can just pray that we support, as opposed to needing to be supported. The way to offset the anger is to acknowledge and relinquish the pride. Surrender one's desire for pleasure, for the pleasure of self-pity, and instead view our efforts on behalf of others as gifts. We can experience the joy of being generous with others as its own reward. Big shift that is. But obviously that is the way out. Acknowledgement. One of the great secrets of a relationship is acknowledgement. The behavior of others towards us always include a hidden gift. Behavior of others towards us always includes a hidden gift, even if that behavior appears negative. There's something in it for us. Very often that something appears in the form of a signal to us to become more aware. Let's say, for example, that somebody calls us stupid. Can you imagine? Our natural response is one of anger. How dare you? We can use the energy of that anger consciously. What is that person asking me to become aware of? If we ask ourselves that question, we may come to the realization that we were being self-centered or being uncaring we were failing to acknowledge them, and we were not being conscious and aware of what was going on in the relationship. If we constantly follow this procedure, we will come to the awareness that everyone in our life is acting as a mirror. They are really reflecting back to us what we have failed to acknowledge within ourselves. Wow, they're forcing us to look at what needs to be addressed. What aspect of our smaller self needs to be relinquished? This means that we have to constantly let go of our pride in order to undo anger, so that we can be grateful for the continual opportunities of growth with which we are presented in the course of everyday experience. That's a shift in context about people around us. To do this, we have to resist the temptation to indulge in making ourselves and others wrong. So, living in a dualistic world of right and wrong, good and bad, what he's talking about here is that, really, that nothing's right or wrong or good or bad. And you'll see, hang on, making others wrong. If we look at the small self aspect of ourselves, we will see that making ourselves and others wrong is one of its favorite activities, i.e. politics or media. This is because the small self is ignorant of better ways to accomplish our goals. It does not see the alternative, which is choosing to change a situation out of free choice. This is because the small self is ignorant of better ways to accomplish our goals. It does not see the alternative, which is choosing to change a situation out of free choice. One way we force ourselves out of unsatisfactory situations is by making ourselves or the situation wrong. Okay. Instead of merely choosing to find a better job, for instance, our smaller self makes the job, the boss, the fellow workers wrong, because of the picture of wrongness, the situation now becomes intolerable, and we are forced to change it. How much easier it would have been had we just simply chosen to move on to a better situation. I've done that. I've actually done that in relationships, and you kind of, it's over, and, stay until it gets unbearable. And probably nobody here has ever done that. Has anybody here done that? Maybe, eh? So yeah, I've done that. And out of fear, really. One source of anger stems from the unacknowledged acts of love that we have expressed to others. One source of anger stems from the unacknowledged acts of love that we have expressed to others. Love, in this context, means the everyday simple forms of lovingness that go on in every human relationship in the form of thoughtfulness, consideration, polite gestures, encouragement, and providing. Very often, an internal dialogue can go on for years about our resentment over the other person's lack of appreciation for our feelings about them. If this is so for us, it must be the case for others as well. There are people, therefore, in our lives who are walking around with an endless mental stream of thoughts about us, having to do with a lack of appreciation of their feelings for us. I call it the list. The list. I'll never forget. I had this girlfriend, and I thought things were going so well. And one day she invited to meet me for coffee, and we'd only been dating for about 3 months, but I was still kind of in the raptured state. I was still under the influence of the drug of romantic love, and feeling quite enamored. Anyway, so she said, let's meet, and she had we got together for coffee, and she had this list of all the things that I wasn't doing that she wanted in a relationship, and oh my gosh, it really got me, and but where it hit was also in that space of me that wanted to be appreciated. And you know, I was also dependent on her. I wanted her to love me in a certain way. And I remember I went to my men and told them about this gal with the list, and that was done with her. Boy, oh boy, how dare she do that? And didn't she know who I was? Didn't she appreciate me? And I was really freaking angry. And one of my men said, look, I think you should stay with her. I think you're going to learn a lot. And I did, because I really respected him. Thank you, Wayne. And you know, I thought, okay. So he encouraged me to stay in, and I did for a while. And it was I did learn a lot from that lady, and it was you know, it was part of growing up. My gosh, this is all part of growing up, isn't it? And you know, becoming a mature man or mature human being, and you know, it's never too late. It's never too late. It really isn't. All right. Endless mental stream of thoughts about us having to do with our lack of appreciation for their feelings for us. That was me. You know, with her. The whole arena of anger can be offset and prevented when we see the enormous value of simply acknowledging the gestures of others towards us. This means to acknowledge all of their communications to us. For instance, if friends call us on the phone, we thank them for calling us. I think that's a really cool thing to do. The reason for doing this is that it makes the other person feel complete and secure with us. It is an acknowledgement of their value in our life, and everyone feels pleased when we acknowledge their value. It just seems polite, actually. You know, I mean, it is polite. It's like, thank you for your time. Thanks for calling. You know, often people will stop me on the street, and I'm surprised when they stop to say hello, and I always thank them, even if I don't know them. You know, I'll say, wow, thanks for saying hi, and because I'm just always, you know, I feel this. It's quite neat when that happens, and that people take the time to share something with me or whatever. By this simple mechanism of acknowledgement, it is possible, within a matter of days, to transform all of one's relationships in a rather dramatic way. Yeah, James, I just want to thank you for all the work you do behind the screen, the scenes here. Acknowledging James, he's tending to the you know, to all this video, and it's pretty cool. It just all goes off without a hitch, and so thanks for that. How's that feel? He blushed. It's fun. I mean, it is fun. We can have so much fun being loving. Okay, but simple mechanism of acknowledgement, it is possible within a matter of days to transform all of one's relationship in a rather dramatic way. This acknowledgement does not have to go on in the outer world, but can take place within oneself. We're examining our relationships, we can ask ourselves, as we examine our relationships, we can ask ourselves, what have I failed to acknowledge in those with whom I have daily contact? So that's great. I mean, I do that. I've talked to you, we spoke about it earlier, but I have a love list. You know, I have a list of people that I not every day, but most days I'll sit down and go through my list and send love and energy to that list. And so we can do that with whoever we're with, even if they're not in the room. It is a very valuable experience to pick someone in your life who, in your view, pick someone in our life who, in our view, is critical towards us, and now, within ourselves, begin to look at how we have failed to acknowledge them. We surrender all of our negative feelings about them, and we begin to give them credit, affirming their value to us. Their value may simply be that they are a spur in our emotional growth and development. That is a value. The nagging spouse or the scowling neighbor is trying to say something. Almost always in this sort of situation, such persons are not feeling acknowledged for their contribution they are making in our life. Once their value to us has been acknowledged, the nagging stops. Wow. Isn't that something? I'm going to read. How much more have I got? Okay, I'm just going to read one more page. expectations. When we stop pressuring others with our expectations, we create an opening for them spontaneously to respond positively to us. We can, in a prophylactic move, offset resentments by shifting what we have done for others from the level of sacrifice to the level of a loving gift. Service, baby, a loving gift. We can then acknowledge ourselves for this move and drop our expectations, which will dissolve the resistance in others. A simple experiment illustrates this shift. There was a man who brought back 2 new shirts from Mexico. The new shirts were of totally different design than the kinds of clothes he was accustomed to wearing. The first day that he decided to wear one of the shirts, he noticed that he had an inner expectation, a sort of subtle pride in doing something new and different. However, instead of surrendering the pride, he decided to keep it. And that is, he purposely didn't use the letting go technique to surrender the pride and simply let it be there. He wanted to see what would happen, how people would respond. That day, he proudly wore his new shirt, and sure enough, nobody even mentioned it. Imagine. Despite the fact that he was totally different from his usual attire, that it was totally different from his usual attire. It must have really stood out, but there was not a single comment. When he went home, he had to laugh at how true was the entrepreneur Robert Ringer's term for that kind of situation as the boy-girl theory. Boy wants girl, therefore girl is disinterested in boy. As soon as the boy no longer interested in the girl, girl wants the boy. And the next morning, he decided he would wear the other new shirt, but this time he surrendered all of his vanity and his expectations being noticed. He let go of that little pride that he was doing something new and different, and he acknowledged the love of all his friends and the important part they played in the happiness of his life. By the time he got through letting go process, he was totally surrendered on wearing the shirt. He was totally surrendered on wearing the shirt. He knew he was totally surrendered because it was okay if they noticed the new shirt, and it was okay if they didn't. That day was suddenly like New Shirt Day. That day was suddenly like New Shirt Day. Almost every person he met commented on the new shirt, asking him where he'd gotten it. And he spent the whole day getting lots of attention. This experiment humorously made the point. We get what we want when we stop insisting on it. We get what we want when we stop insisting on it. Isn't that interesting? Holy shit. Let that sink in, eh? Expectations of others is a form of emotional blackmail. We can feel our resistance when others pull certain emotional goods from us. We can feel our resistance when others pull for certain emotional goods from us. We can get away from being emotionally blackmailed by looking at how we do it with others. And then we can let go of wanting to manipulate their emotional responses to us. Did you get that? I'll read that paragraph again. Expectations of others is a form of emotional blackmail. We can feel our resistance when others pull for certain emotional goods from us. We can get away from being emotionally blackmailed by looking at how we do it with others. And then we can let go of wanting to manipulate their emotional response towards us. Another way of preventing anger is by making a decision within oneself no longer to accept invalidation from others or the small aspect of oneself. Damn, I need to read that again. Another way of preventing anger is by making a decision within oneself no longer to accept invalidation from others or the small aspect of oneself. This decision can be in the form of a firm declaration: I will no longer accept invalidation from myself or others. When this is coupled with the habit of acknowledging all that is positive within ourselves and others, relationships rapidly change. The potential source of anger has been removed. Oh my. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Hey, Earl. I'm done. Hey, you guys. Just I'm done. I'm on page 132. I started on 123, and there's a couple of more pages left in anger. We'll read it tomorrow. It's exciting. And, a couple of quick things. Love it if you go on our website, valiantbeyond.ca, and maybe look at our stools and look at all the stuff that we have there. We've done, a lot of work to kind of set this all up. And, I'm okay if you don't. I love it if you do. And also love it if you subscribe to us on YouTube. And we also have a Patreon page.
There's links all on the video.
Earl/James, he's in transition, says that there will be links as you see, and we have a Patreon page, and so check that out, and so you guys, if you want to, I've got a great book list there. Go have a look at that, and if you're meditating or you want to, a couple of things. One, we're about to putting together kind of a beginner's guide for meditation that we're going to have for you, but there's lots of content and lots of information out there on how to put that together. And that's it. Patreon. Oh, there's a Patreon page. We love it if you support us on Patreon. It feels like a mission for us, and it would be helpful if you check that out. Maybe share that with other people, and. That's it. Love you guys, and happy snow day in Calgary. And cheers, and we'll talk soon. And cheers. Bye.